Oh.
That is what I am trying to tell you, Mom. They weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. God!
You know what's supposed to happen when a teenager gets into an argument with their parents, right? Door slamming, maybe some shouting, probably the silent treatment for a few days. But in this case from Clay County, Florida, a 14-year-old had a completely different plan in mind.
We're seeing the face of the teen who stands accused of killing his parents. 14-year-old Trevor Lee facing 2 counts of second-degree murder. And for the first time tonight, we're hearing his voice in the newly released 911 dispatch reporting. I want to warn you, hearing the call may be disturbing.
You first?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'll listen to you. Well, I was going to ask if you could pray for me, ma'am. Right now? I'll definitely be praying for you, son.
Investigators say Lee was outside a church when he dialed 911 and reported himself. He stayed on the phone until deputies got to his location and took him into custody.
News4Jax reporter Eric Avanier is here in studio with us with more on this new information he obtained in this case. Eric?
Yeah, we were able to acquire a lot more information than what we had yesterday when we first reported this story. Now, we now know where in the house the parents were killed and the extent of their fatal injuries. We also found out that the 14-year-old called his aunt in California before he called 911 to turn himself in. Just one day after 44-year-old David Lee and 45-year-old Brandy Smith were found shot to death inside their Silver Oak subdivision home in Middleburg, News4Jax has learned the couple was in their bed when they were shot multiple times. Both were pronounced deceased when paramedics arrived. Investigators identified the killer as the couple's son, 14-year-old Trevor Lee. After the parents were murdered, Lee called his aunt in California. She then called Clay County 911 dispatch. What her nephew told her was redacted from the 911 recording.
They're in the house, please. Please. Send help, immediately, ambulance, whatever, immediately.
The teen traveled to a nearby church parking lot and called 911. He stayed on the line until deputies arrived to take him into custody.
I'm by the road. I threw my backpack away from me. I'm stripped. I'm waiting for the police. What do you mean you're stripped? I have nothing in my pocket. I emptied my pockets and everything. There's nothing in my pocket.
While most of his conversation with the dispatcher was redacted, we hear him ask the dispatcher to pray for him.
You pray?
Yes,
Go ahead, I'll listen to you. Well, I was going to ask if you could pray for me, ma'am. Right now? I'll definitely be praying for you, son.
These parents are dead in their bed. And
Retired JSO Director of Investigations turned News4Jax crime and safety analyst Tom Hackney says this was no doubt a heinous crime carried out by a kid, but he also says the fact that the teen called 911 to surrender himself says something.
instant remorse. When you hear the sound of his voice and you hear kind of what he's going through, aside from the redacted part, you hear some instant remorse. And I think that's kind of bolstered by the fact that he left the scene and goes immediately to call 911 and turn himself in.
David Lee was 44 years old, and Brandy Smith was 45. Their son Trevor was their pride and joy, straight-A student, and a football player, the kind of son most people would wish for. Before we continue, if real-life family crime grips you, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and smash subscribe with the bell so you never miss a new case on Fatal Family Network. The Lee family lived on Silver Point near Country Road, in Middleburg. Trevor was about to start high school the following week. Everyone who knew the family described them as close-knit and loving. They described Trevor as a local football player, who was polite to adults and had lots of friends. Until August 4, 2025. Just after midnight on a Sunday night in Middleburg, Florida, a 911 operator received a call. The voice on the other end is young, calm, and saying words that no dispatcher ever wants to hear. The caller is 14-year-old Trevor Lee, and he's standing in a church parking lot approximately a mile and a half away from his house. He's already told the operator what he's done, and he made a request.
You first?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'll listen to you. Well, I was going to ask if you could pray for me, ma'am. Right now? I'll definitely be praying for you, son.
During that call, Trevor tells dispatchers specific details about his location and condition. This teenager confessed to ending both his parents' lives, walked over a mile to Cross Point Church, called the police on himself, and made sure they knew he wasn't armed or dangerous. The level of detail and cooperation he showed during that call was unusual for someone who had just committed such a serious crime. But Trevor didn't just randomly pick up the phone and call 911. Before he made that call to the dispatcher, he made a call to his sister, Aona Russell. She was stationed in California with the military, living her own life, when her little brother called with news that would destroy their family. The details of their conversation were not made public, but whatever Trevor told his sister was enough to make her immediately call 911 herself. She explained to the dispatcher that she's all the way in California, that she doesn't know where her brother is, and that they need to send help immediately.
They're in the house. Please. Send help immediately. Ambulance, whatever, immediately.
Aona also mentioned that the family had had a good day and had gone to the movies together. Everything had seemed normal just hours before.
I'm out of state. I'm in the military. I don't know what goes on. But they just had a good day. They went to the movies, bro. They went to the movies.
According to reports, the sheriff explained that when that initial 911 call came in, the dispatchers weren't sure if this was real, or if they were dealing with a prank call, which the Clay County had been experiencing lately. Because of this concern, the communications center kept Trevor on the line for quite a while, as deputies responded to both locations, the church where Trevor was waiting, and the family home.
One communications center received a call from a young man who stated he had just killed his parents. He stated that deputies could find his parents at the house and that he had walked just over a mile away to a church, and he would await for deputies to arrive to take him into custody. Deputies responded immediately to both locations, the church and then to a home on out here in the Middleburg area. When deputies arrived to the church, they took 14-year-old Trevor Lee into custody. When almost simultaneously deputies arrived to the address in question, they found two deceased individuals inside, David Lee, 44 years of age, and Brandy Smith, 45 years of age. Both of the deceased appeared to have gunshot wounds. Based upon our preliminary investigation, and we're still very early in this investigation, it appears that there was some sort of domestic argument last night between Trevor Lee and his parents, and that this shooting culminated from that argument. This does appear to be an isolated incident, and we have no further threat to our community at this time. Again, this is a very active scene. Our detectives are working diligently to try to figure all of this out. We do want to extend our deepest sympathies to the family, the friends, and all of those who are affected by this heartbreaking incident, and we would like to ask anybody in the community that may have some information regarding Trevor Lee or his parents to please reach out to us at 904-264-6512. And with that, I will take any questions.
Did the teen have any prior mental health history, anything like, visiting the guidance office at school, or any therapy, any Baker Acts?
That we're looking into that. That's going to be part of the investigation. You think about this just happened at midnight last night, just after midnight, and we're here early Monday morning. So all of that is going to be looked at. His history at school, any previous contacts, we don't know right now, but that'll be part of the investigative process.
Just going by names alone, biological dad, do we have a relation with the woman?
I believe these are both his biological parents at this time. I know the father is for sure.
With different names, I was curious.
Correct.
Was it the parents' gun or was it the kid's gun?
At this time, we believe it's going to be the parents' gun, but we're still, again, looking into that through, talking to him, finding out where the gun was, how he got a hold of the gun, how did he know the gun was there. The gun was recovered at the scene. He left the gun at the scene when he walked to the church to call 911.
When deputies arrived at the Lee family home on Silver Point, they surrounded the house and attempted to make contact with anyone inside. When nobody responded, they made the decision to enter the home, and that's when they discovered that Trevor wasn't making any of this up. David Lee and Brandy Smith were found in their bedroom, both with gunshot wounds. The weapon used, which belonged to Brandy, Trevor's mother, was left right there at the scene. At Cross Point Church, deputies approached the 14-year-old who had been standing in the parking lot, cooperating with every instruction the dispatcher had given him. When Trevor was taken into custody, he didn't resist or try to run. The sheriff described him as being extremely cooperative with the deputies who took him into custody at the scene, and then also with the detectives later on in the evening who were interviewing him. When the news broke that Sunday night, neighbors and friends were in complete shock. A neighbor of the Lee family called the whole situation terrifying and mortifying, especially since he related it to his own 13-year-old daughter. When Trevor was taken into custody and interviewed by detectives, he was completely open about what had led up to that night. The sheriff told reporters he was very candid about an argument that happened with his parents earlier in the evening, and he felt that this was his only way out. Some early reports suggested the argument might have been about Trevor wanting something, probably a video game or permission to do something, and his parents refusing his request, but the police department hasn't confirmed those details. What we do know is that after the argument, Trevor went to his parents' bedroom, took his mother's gun and shot his parents. He then left the weapon at the scene and began his walk to the church. According to Trevor's sister Aona, the family had had a good day. They went to the movies together. Everything seemed normal. In an interview, she defended her brother while also grieving her parents. She said that her brother made a huge mistake, but that he is not a monster.
Did he make a mistake? Yes. He made a big mistake. A huge one. My little brother, he is not a monster. We joked around with each other. We played a lot. We played video games with each other. We went to the movies. We were like a regular family. No issues at all whatsoever. He's a bright young man. He wanted to become a football player. He was freshly coming into high school, a freshman. The kids loved him. He had friends, lots of friends. I wish I can go back and thank her one last time. Tell her I love you one last time to let my dad know how much I appreciated him.
6 years ago in 2019, when Trevor was just 8 years old, his mother Brandy wrote on social media, "This little boy gives me pure hell. Everything I did to my parents, I'm getting it back times 10. Y'all keep us lifted in prayer." When this post resurfaced after the tragedy, people had very different reactions. The legal system is moving forward with treating this case exactly like it would any other double homicide. Trevor Lee was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, which means prosecutors believe he intentionally ended his parents' lives, even if it wasn't premeditated. Legal experts immediately began weighing in about whether Trevor should be tried as an adult or kept in the juvenile system. Trevor is currently being held in a juvenile detention center, but if he's charged as an adult, he could face life in prison. At 14 years old, that's potentially 60 or 70 years of living with this decision. Trevor's best friend Kyrie Beeman painted a picture of a teenager who seemed completely normal right up until the end.
They treated me very well. They told me all the time that they loved me like a son, and they treated me as such. He's not a bad person just because he made one bad decision. He's done so much for everyone I know, and I don't want him just to be known as a killer or a murderer, and that he was a great kid, a great son.
Kyrie told reporters that he and Trevor had talked on the phone around 12:30 that morning, just before everything went wrong.
He told me that he loved me, and he told me that he was just calling to tell me goodnight.
Kyrie also described what Trevor was like as a person.
Trevor isn't a bad person. He made some bad mistakes, and he will suffer the consequences of them, but that's not all he was. The Trevor that did this, I don't know that Trevor. And the Trevor that I knew and all of our friends knew, I will continue to be friends with him. And I pray that the Trevor that did this died last night.
How does a straight-A student become a double homicide suspect overnight? How does a football player who calls his best friend to say "I love you" end up walking to a church at midnight asking strangers to pray for him after ending his parents' lives? The sheriff believes that Trevor's sister probably encouraged him to call 911 during their phone conversation, and that he felt walking to the church and waiting for deputies was the safest place for him to surrender. David Lee and Brandy Smith lost their futures, their dreams, their chance to see their son graduate high school or play college football. And Trevor Lee lost his childhood, his freedom, and any chance of having a normal life. This case is still ongoing, and there are still so many questions that may never get answered. But one thing is clear, the perfect family that everyone thought they knew never really existed. Family should be a refuge, but even the closest ties can fracture. Stay alert, look out for one another, and reach out if you sense danger. See you in the next story here on Fatal Family Network. Thanks for watching.